in terms of skills, right. Well, now I've got my whole hatred management thing really under control. You might want to run a discipline generator. I mean, not a discipline generator, a hatred generator. But no matter what you pick, if you're anywhere close to getting your gear set up right, you're going to be using it almost never. For the longest time, I was using Hardened right after 1.5 came out because it traveled instantaneously and it didn't waste discipline, and that made it about as good as it could get. Hey, I'm pointing at a destructible. Oh, it's instantly gone. Great. However, once you get your hatred under control, you really want to go with Sentry. Sentry is awesome. If you see an elite pack, you just plop that down. It starts adding 175 damage, percent weapon damage a hit, and it just keeps on going. Anytime you're in a huge battle, you just drop that thing down, and it just increases your DPS phenomenally. But if you're running a hatred generator, it would go here. I'm not, so I'm running Vault, and it's not hard to put your Vault in your left click at all. Just whatever button you were vaulting with before, just set hold still to that. So whenever you hit left click and you're holding down your hold still button, you'll vault. But by remapping your hold still to whatever your vault was on before, you don't need to relearn the whole your controls all over again. And you definitely want Trail of Cinders here. Whenever you're in a tight spot and you need to get out, you're probably going to be vault and taking over some monsters with Gloom up. So while you're moving, you're life leeching. That beats the pants off of Tumble. The only reason you'd ever run Tumble is, let's say you can't afford four pieces of max discipline, and you're only running 3, and things are kind of tight. Maybe then. But as soon as you can afford the extra discipline cost, you want to go for Trail. Okay, now Gloom, mandatory. You're not going to be able to afford decent gear if you're looking for life leech and life on hit. Just run this, you see a reflex dot, damage mob, you pop it, or you're just low on health, you pop it. Everything works out great. Bat Companion, absolutely required. You need the extra hatred. And Sentry, Spitfire turret is probably the best one. Every once in a while I get in situations where I dropped a Spitfire less than 8 seconds before, and I want to drop one again, and I'm like, I need to wait a second and a half. And every time that happens, I'm wondering if Vigilant Watcher might be worth it. But generally speaking, the extra damage is good. Preparation, I think Invigoration is the clear choice here. Backup Plan is very similar, but it's much more luck-based. Huge payoff when it works, really sucks when it doesn't. All the other rooms are necessary, especially with Gloom. Battle Scars isn't going to work because you already got a heal. Tactical Advantage and Vengeance can't go anywhere. One thing to keep in mind is that Vengeance makes you health glow based. You're as health glow based as those crazy witch doctors. Really, I mean, you just can't live without. You're not going to be able to make the build work unless you're picking up those health glows to get your hatred back and your discipline back. Because you're going to be vaulting a lot, and if it wasn't for Vengeance, you need something like 4-piece Legacy Mats in order to make it work. So those are the two that can't go anywhere. Third one actually is a little bit more, whatever you want to do. If you had cold damage on your Stone Jordan, and you wanted to run Sentry, you could try that. Your Sentry will still do cold damage, so you can try that. Night Stalker if you're having discipline issues, but you really shouldn't be. That's sort of a undergeared type of thing. Like somehow undergeared on the discipline, super overgeared on the crit chance. You're probably not taking it anymore. The most common alternative to archery would be steady aim. Steady aim offers really powerful bonus. 20% is a huge damage increase. But its downside is actually sort of significant, especially when you're trying to run through, do really fast runs. If you're moving the way that's fastest, that's optimal, steady aim is going to be off about half the time, which means it's still an average 10%. It's still good. But as a matter of fact, even at 10%, it competes pretty well with archery. But it really does train you to move away and kite in situations where you don't really need to be moving away and kite. You're just trying to get your steady aim back up. You probably want to try to avoid that mentality from the beginning and just go archery. But especially if you're under geared and your crit chance isn't that high, you're going to get a lot more out of steady aim. So, sort of up to you. You can play with them, see what's right for your gear level. But steady aim or archery for the third one, probably. Perfectionist is sort of interesting, but you can go have a little creativity if you want. But archery and steady aim are my number 1 and 2 recommendations there. Alright, so enough of that. Let's do a run.